Hello and welcome to Twerk, a space where you can hear and read about some amazing people, the fantastic jobs they do, and the paths that led them to where they are today. I'm here with Katie. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Could you tell the listener what it is you do for a living?
So I would tend to say that I'm a caterer.
Yeah.
But I'm probably wearing quite a few different hats. So I do a lot of private chefing. So a big part of my business is doing things like birthday cakes and boxes of pastries. I also do a lot of events, weddings. Obviously grazing tables have been like a big part of my business for the last few years.
Yeah.
And they're still really popular. But yeah, if it's food related, then I'm probably involved in it in some way. So I do a lot of events. I do a lot of workshops and things. I like teaching people as well. All sorts.
So
but
food.
It's food.
Food. And we may come on to this later, but before we started recording, Katie was telling me that she's just been catering for an event for scaffolders. That's how we've started, and already I'm like, what? We're going to track back, but before we do, you've got to explain that.
That's kind of like one of the newer things that I've been doing, but also it's probably like my favourite kind of job to get.
So this isn't like a corporate event for scaffolders. These are people actually scaffolding.
So it was quite corporate. So a lot of the guys there, they used to be on the tools, but now they've gone over to sales.
Right.
But it's still very much like that scaff like mentality.
Wow. Right. Okay. Before we go too far into everything food, let's chat back home. Talk about little Katie. And what were you like? What were you into?
Growing up, I really wasn't that interested in food. I think I was really poorly as a kid, so just wasn't into food. Like, wasn't curious about it. Never sort of really cooked growing up
with your parents or anything.
No, like my mum is a good cook. She like cooks a lot of things from scratch, and she always has done. And I think we always used to go on nice holidays, and we were always encouraged to like try different foods.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I was a fussy eater. I just don't think it had sort of become like a massive part of my life.
Yeah.
When I left home, I couldn't even boil pasta. It's literally my sister's favourite story ever. She came to visit me, and I tried to cook us tea, and I basically just served her raw pasta because I just didn't know what I was doing.
Wow. Okay, but when you were at school then, what were your favourite subjects, that kind of thing?
I'm really creative, so art. I did fashion and textiles at college.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved English, I loved to read.
Yeah.
So I was quite academic, but equally really creative as well.
Yeah.
So loved drawing and painting and sewing.
And good? Were you good?
Yeah, I think so.
I was going to say, because if you're academic, creative and good, you're just like the education system's dream, aren't
generally,
you?
You steer towards things that you are good at, don't you? Like that tends to be, you like the subject that you're good at. Yeah, for me, like English, art, I knew that I was good at those, and that's kind of where I stuck with, yeah.
And into college, what?
So I went to college. I did fashion and textiles up to degree level, and again, like, absolutely loved that. I really thought I was going to work in fashion. I finished college with a triple distinction, and I was in the top 5% in the country in terms of the marks that I received overall.
Wow.
So a lot of my tutors at college, they were really pushing for me to go to London College of Fashion or St Martin's, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go to work.
Right.
And I thought I'd sort of find my own way into fashion, but that just never really happened. So.
Okay, interesting. And do you know what made you want to go into work?
I think...
Was it like older siblings or...
No, I'm the oldest, so it was very much like there's no one in my family that's been to university, so it wasn't sort of... I don't think for my parents it was something that they imagined that I would do.
Yeah.
And I think I just really wanted to earn money, like just really hungry to have my own money, to be able to do the things that I wanted to do. I really wanted to move out of my family home. I wanted to have my own place, my own things. So yeah, I think the driver was more, I just wanted to get out and earn money and be independent. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough. So what did you do then? So 16, I'm guessing, yeah? No, 18, yeah.
Yeah, so I left college and I got a job at a call centre selling various types of insurance policies over the phone.
Okay.
And I stayed there for nearly 4 years. And at the time, so this is going back like 15, 16 years ago, 19, still living at home with mum and dad, and I think we were on something stupid like £10.50 an hour back then.
Wow.
And I had nothing to spend this money on other than like a small amount of housekeeping that I was paying to my mum, and then I just go out, get tattoos, get clothes, just have a lovely time, go and visit my friends that were at university. So I was having that kind of university experience of like going out and clubbing and stuff.
Yeah.
But I had all the money, so and I absolutely loved it.
Wow. So what made you change from that then after 4 years?
Met someone when I was working at the call centre, and we bought a house together. So I was mortgaged up at like 21, 22, we bought a house. And I was like, I don't think I want to work at the call centre anymore. I feel like I need to do something creative again. So I tried to go back to college to do some more sort of like higher education in terms of textiles and the things that I'd liked doing. But I couldn't really stick at that. And then from that point, me and the person that I was with when I bought this house, we went our separate ways, sold the house, and I moved to Norwich.
Oh, where were you then?
In Great Yarmouth.
Okay.
So we had the house in Great Yarmouth. Yeah, moved to Norwich, and then shortly after that I fell pregnant with my daughter. So I've met someone else.
Yeah.
So I was living in a flat at that time in Norwich with two friends of mine. I fell pregnant, and we all sort of went our separate ways, and I moved in with my daughter's dad.
Yeah.
That was another relationship that just went sour. So
But then you're trying to find yourself a bit as well.
I was really young as well. I think having my daughter at 23, I think at 23 I felt old enough. But I look back now and I was like, you were so young to have had a baby, and all these really big grown-up things had happened in quite a short space of time. Like I'd had a mortgage, I'd bought a house, I'd sold a house, I'd had like 2 relationships, like quite serious relationships break down. I was a single parent, and I still hadn't even turned 25. Like all these things had happened.
Wow.
So, and I was living on my own. It was just me and my daughter, and as much as I loved being with my daughter, I was like, this isn't enough. I need to get my teeth into something again.
Yeah.
So I got a job working in mortgages at that point.
Okay, so again, kind of looped back round again.
Yeah, just going back into sort of like, right, what do I know? What I'm good with sales. I've got a good knowledge of insurance and financial services, and then all kind of tied into then going to work in mortgages.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to be on a team of like all women. It was we had a lot of fun. And during that time,
and probably other mums as well.
Yeah, there were other mums, but I think we were all still quite young. There was a lot of people that, just starting out in life. Everyone's sort of in their 20s and like figuring things out, and nothing ever felt too serious at that point. It was like we all knew that we were in quite a serious job, and I used to work in the commercial side of mortgages, so you're often dealing with like clients who've got a hell of a lot of money, like huge property portfolios, but it still felt quite light, and I knew this kind of wasn't going to be my forever job. It was just it was something to do, and it just fitted at the time. I felt I was coming to the end of my time working in mortgages. I was like, right, it's been a few years, I need to do something else. I got a job working as an office manager at a publishing company, but again it was very salesy, and I was the only female on the office floor.
Wow.
They were all men, and it was very sort of like, it's in Norwich, but they all thought they were like Wolf of Wall Street. And I was like, this is...
Known as the confidence of a mediocre man.
100%. And they were just a nightmare. It was just like having 20 teenage sons to look after every day. But I used to, once a week, I'd like take in like cakes and sausage rolls and things that I'd made for them.
Aww.
And it got to a point where they're like, Katie, we're going to like give you money for this. Like, so they started sort of paying me to bring things in.
Actually make them food.
And then one of the guys was just like, you're wasted here. Like, have you thought about doing this like as a career? And I was like, well, no. But why not? So kind of sort of set it up as like a bit of a sideline and thought, oh, I'll just do like the odd birthday cake, or it's going to be buffets. I did my first big job, which was a christening.
But how did you... So obviously you said you set yourself up.
Yeah.
So how long ago was this?
So about 10 years ago.
Yeah. So social wasn't anywhere near what it is now then.
No. And I think when I first started marketing the business, I literally put an ad out on Gumtree.
Yeah.
It was... Yeah, it's nothing like it is now.
Yeah.
I had Instagram and I had Facebook, but I hadn't really sort of even considered that they were going to be...
Well, they back then...
a revenue stream.
They almost were still very friend-centric, weren't they?
Yeah,
obviously,
definitely.
They're just a massive marketing beast now. But it was still way of connecting people and friends and stuff, so... Wow, okay, so Gumtree. And then what, from one of your ads, someone rang you?
Yeah, so I got a couple of calls, got booked to do this christening, this really lovely couple, and, you know, they came round to meet me, and I was like, look, this is my first ever, like, gig. I've not done anything like this before. But they just put their complete trust in me. Wow. I massively over-catered because I had no idea in terms of like numbers, how much do you make? And but they absolutely loved it, and I was like, right, okay, I know I can do this. Like, I've done that first job. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this feels like something that I can keep doing.
Yeah. But you started your other job at the same time.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And then it got to the point where I was like, right, I want to sort of take a bit of a leap of faith. Yeah. And my partner sort of backed me up and was like, you know, if you want to leave this other job, like, I'll support you in terms of like getting the business off the ground. Yeah. So I left the publishing company, and at that point was sort of trying to get this business off the ground and think, you know, try and book jobs, which was really, really difficult. And I don't really know what I expected, whether I thought things were going to sort of fall onto my lap, because it felt like the first job kind of had. But then I applied for a job working at a cafe, which is something that I never thought I'd do, like being a barista and working in this little cafe kitchen. But that was a really good decision because I started doing that. I was working in the kitchen there, making loads of fresh stuff every day, baking, making soups, making frittatas, making like all these daily specials. I had pretty much free reign over what I was doing. Yeah. Plus getting to see like behind the scenes of someone running a small independent business. Yeah. And I stayed there for probably 3 years, and the only reason I stopped working there was because COVID. So
okay. So were you still doing your own catering as a side hustle?
Yes, and
when stuff came in?
It was very sort of much a sideline, and it wasn't anything major at that point. I think the most I was doing was birthday cakes, and cupcakes and things like that. I hadn't really sort of done any big jobs.
But were you building, when you were in that cafe though, were you building up a kind of reputation though? Yeah. So because everyone, I mean, I know that when there's certain cafes, particularly, it's amazing when if you go to an independent one, when the food, word does spread, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think the fact that I was given sort of freedom over what we were making, people started coming in and being like, oh, you know, when are you making this again? And and also in terms of what we were saying about social media, the fact that I was in this kitchen making things every day, I suddenly had all this content and I had things that I could start sharing, and people were like, oh, I like the look of this, could you make it for me? Or what's the recipe for this? So then sort of in the background just slowly sort of built up this following, and a lot of it came from people coming into the cafe and, you know, your regular customers, people that you chat to every day that, you know, you're making these people coffee, but they want, you know, they want to know about you. They want, they want that insight. Then sort of steadily built up this social media following.
Just say fan base.
And
then COVID.
And that was, I remember that day, and I was so frightened. Just went into the cafe, and Rebecca, my manager there, like, who, it's her business, she was just in tears. She was like, Katie, I don't know what we're going to do.
No.
But she was like, I've got a shut. At that point, we didn't know if we didn't know about furlough. That wasn't.
God, she was just anything, like, did we?
She was just like, I can't afford to pay you. Like, you know, we're going to have to close. And I met my partner Steve that day, in the city, and I was just crying. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what we're going to do. But I think everyone sort of felt that way, because it was like, well, this is something huge, and no one's got any control over it. No one knew what was going to happen.
Well, also to start with, there wasn't. I know it came later, but there wasn't any chatter about small businesses. There was no. It was very much. It was such a
No one knew what they
went under, didn't they?
Yeah, no one knew what they were doing, and no one knew what to expect, and how no one knew how people were going to survive, how businesses were going to survive, what the next steps even were going to be.
Were they all going to die?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there was that fear as well, wasn't there? It was like, you know, what is going to happen? It was like massive unknown. But as scared as I was, lockdown turned into probably one of the best things for me and for my business at that point, because I had a captive audience.
Yeah. And people were at home consuming content.
Yeah. And from that point, I had all these ideas. Like, my partner Steve had loads of ideas about what we could do in terms of getting my business up to a point where that could still be something that we did over lockdown. So I started doing a thing called Stay Home Supper Club. So we'd make fresh meals every day, like things that could be reheated, but people knew they were fresh. So we'd do, like, you know, soups and dals and stews and things, and people could order them for the week. So if they were working from home, they knew they had something to look forward to, something delicious. And that was really popular.
Well, also, we all went really, at the start, we were really healthy, didn't we?
Yeah.
We all became very health conscious. So you obviously delivering up really healthy.
Yeah, it was like
takeaways, for want of a better phrase.
Pretty much, yeah. It was facilitating that, and you know, making people feel like they were still having something a bit special.
Yeah.
And at one point, Steve was doing all the deliveries, but that was him, like, every day. Like, I'd get up in the morning, make all this stuff, and he'd be out delivering for like 4 hours.
So from the point of lockdown then to the point of that, what was the time period?
It was like immediate. Within sort of like a couple of weeks, we started doing that. It was straight away. And then from that, obviously, people started ordering other things. I think in this country...
And you kept adding stuff to the offering.
Yeah, and in this country, I think times get hard and people just really fall back onto their luxuries, their little treats, like, well, this is really bad, but I'm gonna have something nice to eat, which was great for me, because at that point things just massively took off. I started putting more menus together and having them available on my social media for people to look at, and Steve was just out delivering literally 7 days a week. All this stuff, and I was at a point where suddenly I was like, wow, where is all this money coming from? And it was like, this has got arms and legs. This business it's happening, and it had kind of it just sort of seemed to come. It sort of exploded out of nowhere. So
divine timing.
Yes, and so lockdown, I worked every day because there was nothing else to do. So I was like, why not? Why not work 7 days a week? And it's still...
As long as you're doing something you loved, so...
Yeah, and I worked really hard, like, I took on a lot, because you get that taste...
You didn't know.
But you get that taste for, you know, getting money coming in, and, you know, people wanting to order all this, like, stuff from you, and it becomes addictive, I think.
Yeah. Well, and you don't know if it's going to end or anything.
Yeah,
so
it's kind of grab it
the smart
while
thing
you can.
to do. Yeah. Okay, so where are we now then? So if we roll through into 2021, where are we? How does it evolve? What does it...
So just throughout lockdown, it was just the business just continued to build. As we started to come out the other side of that, people then getting really excited about the idea of being able to have events, being able to have weddings again. And
yeah.
So again, without me really even realising it was happening, I'm being booked to do weddings. I'm being booked to do big family parties and corporate events, which is not something I'd ever considered doing. And sort of people asking, oh, would you come to my home as a private chef and cook this for me?
Yes, yeah.
But it was all, the business has really always come from people requesting things from me and me being like, yeah, okay, maybe I could do that. I'll try.
Yeah.
And then you do it once, you're like, oh no, I really like that, I'll do it again. So got to the end of lockdown and everyone kind of getting back to normal. Rebecca from the cafe called and said, do you want your old job back? And I said, no, because I don't need to come back.
Yeah.
And she was like, that's amazing. Because the business had, by that point, I was like, no, I can do this. I can completely can do this. And that's now where we are. So since then, just continue to build on it. Always adding different things and trying different things. I think I don't like to do the same thing every day. It's nice for me to have lots of variety and again,
you need that for your creative output.
Yes.
If you were just doing the same stuff.
Although sometimes I do quite I fantasize about the idea of a factory job because it's also that repetitiveness. But if you just literally stood there on a line, your brain can just wander anywhere, can't it?
Yeah.
Which would be quite nice sometimes. Yeah.
Because I guess that is the thing. This is a lot of pressure on you, isn't it?
It's a hugely pressured job, and it's a lot. I take on a lot.
And what you do for the service, that is high customer expectations, isn't it? Whether it's a wedding or an event or anything, people are expecting. It's not just like ordering a pair of shoes, is it? People are expecting.
Yeah, I would always say people's expectations are high, but then I would say my expectations of myself are always higher. I'll be with anything that I do. I'm still coming away like, was that good enough? Was that okay? And it always is. But I know that I need to have that in my mind. And my expectations always need to be higher than the customer's expectations. Yeah. And, for some of the people that I work for, their requirements are, they want these big elaborate things and they expect me to be able to pull it off.
And what are we talking numbers wise now? What can you cater to?
I think the most amount I've catered for is 150 people on my own.
For what? Just and is that
that was a huge grazing table.
Yeah.
For a wedding. And I've done quite a few jobs where it's for 100.
Yeah. And you can't do all this on your own, surely.
In terms of the cooking, yes.
And then you just employ...
I've had a couple of freelance girls work for me over the last couple of summers because I don't drive, so it's always important for me to have someone that can drive and just help me
almost
when we're
an
at a venue. Set things out and, do some heavy lifting and... but for the most part, I like to do everything myself.
Yeah.
Which is kind of where I've come to. This year, I sort of made a decision to take on less of the really, really big jobs.
Right.
And scale back a bit just so that I could keep things more under my control. I was
going to say, because surely you're getting to a point where either you keep expanding and going, but then you've got to start recruiting people.
Yeah. And you're not making any... Again, it always comes back to me just thinking, how are we going to make money from this? How can I make money on this?
Well, and managing people isn't for
and
everyone.
If you start, I might grow the business and take people on, but if I'm not making any more money, I don't really see the point. I can find that sweet spot where I can be in complete control of everything. I can manage it and I'm maximising what I can do for the most amount of money, and not be paying out for someone to drive, for someone to do this, for someone to do that.
Right. So I guess where does this go? What's the dream for this then? If you could, what would the dream scenario look like?
I really, really, really want to have my own cafe. And have like a day to night kind of venue, just something really, really small.
Yeah.
And do sort of a bistro kind of vibe. So it is cafe during the day, and then maybe in the evenings, just have supper clubs where it's, I'm just seating like 8 to 12 people at a time, just super small. Again, being a control freak, it's something that I could be able to completely manage myself.
Yeah.
And
almost that simply would be on, like, say, Friday, Saturday night.
Yeah. And just have somewhere really small in the city. Just a little bit to call my own. It would be really lovely to have a proper shop front.
Wow. Okay, and what's the plan to get there then?
I have faith, and I have always been told that, if you work hard, you can have what you want. My mum she said, you can have anything you want, but you need to want it enough.
And you've got to work hard for
it.
And
you have to work hard. And I probably work too hard. I work a lot. I'm working 6 days a week. I really, really, really push myself. But again, it's quite addicting. I'm like, right, can I do this? Can I do this? And then I do it, and I'm like, right, I'll push myself a little bit further next time. Can I do this? Can I do this? And it's just always just pushing to that next level. Yeah. To see if I can do it. And every time that I do it, it feels great. Yeah. And it's just nice to be in competition with yourself and yourself only, and just to keep pushing yourself in that regard is... Yeah. I think that's the best way to be. That's what drives me to work hard. I just want to keep pushing, reaching for whatever evolving,
it is. Yeah. Brilliant. So I'm going to let you get back to your life. I'll ask you my 3 final questions. The first of which is there any life advice you would give your younger self?
Yes. I always think on this. Lower your expectations. Oh. But not your standards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, but how do you distinguish between the two? Younger me could also, even me now, could do with that advice. How do I do that though?
Standards is, for me, having standards, it's like, that's your moral compass. That's your core values. Yeah. That's your standard. Yeah. Expectation is often placed on other people and other things.
Okay, then question 2 is always, what life advice or what advice do you think your older self would give you now? So 65-year-old Katie, what would she say to you now?
Slow down, have a little break. Yeah. Have some time for yourself. Prioritise health. Stop drinking so much. Stop trying to drink with scaffolders and keep up with scaffolders on a night.
That's nice.
Stop trying to match 45-year-old men pint
Mediocre
for pint.
Yeah. Okay, so just basically take better care of yourself. Yeah. It's good advice that obviously your inner self is telling you.
Yes.
Okay, then the final question is always just, and it could always be, often it is what you've already said, but just either a mantra or something that you live and die by.
Work hard.
Yeah.
Play hard.
Yeah. There you go. Emphasis on the work hard.
Yes, 100%. No, I think work hard is absolutely, it's been ingrained in me since I was a little girl. My parents are both really hard workers. They've worked for everything that they have. Yeah. And, I can't sit still. I can't not be doing something. I like to be of service. I like to feel valued. And for me, I get that sense of self-worth and achievement from work. Yeah. And that's what drives me.
Thank you very much, Katie.
Thank you.
There you go. If you would like to hear more about this chat, see some pics and read about how to get started in this industry and or this role, then please go to our website www.twerk.org. The link is in this podcast page and across our socials. Sincere thanks.